Your story into this world, if we go way back to the beginning, involves a trip to Hawaii with some friends, and you ended up jumping off a waterfall and having
Not a good
compression
idea.
fracture of your spine.
Yeah,
So I'll have
exactly.
you take the story from there and talk about how that led over time to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I had no clue it was going to lead to any of this, but what it started in me was this very intense desire to feel better. Like I was broken. I was super depressed, super anxious, had a lot of mental health issues after the surgery. I was really, really struggling. I didn't want to live. I mean, it was fucking brutal. And so I was like, I need to figure out how to heal. I need to figure out how to communicate with my body, how to get it into place where I feel like I'm showing up as my optimal self and I'm not just like this shell of a human. So I went to study biochemistry in grad school. And then I went to work in the field of genetics, always trying to understand, how does my body work? How can I speak with it? How can I understand what my body needs? And while I was working in genetics in San Francisco, I had the opportunity to put on a glucose monitor, which is a device that has been designed and developed for people with diabetes. And I put one on as a non-diabetic. And I saw a few things that really changed my life and that led me to talk about glucose all day like I am today. So number one, I saw that glucose spikes were happening in my body and that I was not diabetic, but that these spikes were really big. And I learned that 90% of us have these glucose spikes happening in our body every day without knowing it. And that was like, whoa. Second, I was able to trace that glucose spikes were one of the triggers for my mental health episodes. So I saw one day, I had this condition called depersonalization, which super sucks and is like a weird feeling of being terrified about existing and just like intense terror and anxiety and fear and whatever. And so I saw one day that as one of these episodes was coming on, I scanned my glucose monitor and I saw that it was coinciding with this massive glucose spike from a really sugary breakfast that I had just had. And so then I started connecting the dots. I was like, oh, what I'm eating is influencing my glucose, which in turn is influencing me, how I'm feeling. So I thought, well, I got to learn how to avoid these glucose spikes. And I understood the concept that glucose came from starches and sugars. And I also knew I didn't want to give up pasta and chocolate cake because they make me happy. And I just love them. And so I dove into the research and I discovered that actually there were things I could do, principles I could use that would allow me to avoid glucose spikes while still eating all the foods that I love. And that was really revolutionary. And so I started sharing it with my friends and family after healing myself. And then, it's been helping so many people since. And now, on Instagram with the book, I'm super happy that more people are getting access to the science.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
90% of the population has glucose spikes every day without knowing it. And so I dove into the research and I discovered that actually there were things I could do, principles I could use that would allow me